Hi, Kerry. Thank you very
Hi,
much for the time.
pleasure.
It's wonderful to see you. So, yes, we are here to talk about AI and its role in small law firms in terms of intake, in terms of compliance, and generally speaking, how AI is helping law firms in everyday work. And I would like to see your experience in it, and also I know that you are in touch with a lot of law firms and lawyers, and you will explain to me that about your consultancy. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of stories. We just want to share practices and stories about this and hear your perspectives and a little bit of mine about this really revolutionary subject, a new technology. So I would love to see if you can start with you introducing yourself and tell us more about who you are and what you do and how you help lawyers, and then we can start with the subject. Thank you.
I'm Kerry Underwood. I've had my own law firm for 40 years, a small mixed practice, but concentrating on litigation in the past. And I'm a retired employment judge, a part-time judge. Most of my work now is consultancy for other firms and writing and regulatory work and Zoominars where I give 1 hour talks to subscribers on legal issues, costs, funding, regulatory issues, and so on. So that's pretty much my background and where I am. The client work I do now is fairly limited. A lot of it's related to corporate association disciplinary hearings for clubs, managers and players and so on. In terms of artificial intelligence, I think the first major problem is that there's no clear definition of what it is and what it involves. There are clearly very significant social, moral, and political issues. What I mean by that is it's not just the source of the information. I'll use the polite term for computers about rubbish in and rubbish out. That's potentially the problem. What is the source and what are the assumptions made by what's called artificial intelligence? And I'll come back to that. But if we look at, for example, is the data that is pulled in by weather stations, to take an uncontroversial matter, which then informs the weather forecast. Is that artificial intelligence? Yes, presumably it is. And few of us would have a problem with that. The collation of statistics so that you can make more accurate and helpful predictions. For example, supermarkets have for a long time known exactly what the demand for ice cream will be for every 0.1 centigrade of the rise in the temperature that day. So I'm not quite sure why artificial intelligence is being seen as something that's been invented in 2025.
I would say the same thing is happening with AI. So gradually entering in, and there is a big race. The technology is advancing, and China and America and others, nobody is willing to slow down. They are racing. And what happened is that you ask what is new. This thing went live, a couple of years ago. Before that, ChatGPT and large language models were developed, but they were not connected to the internet. Now they are all live, and they basically part of the whole system. And since then, there are worries that how advanced it's gonna be, and what if it's becoming super intelligence and it becoming smarter than us. These are lots of philosophical discussions, and a lot of people say that something can go wrong once it becomes more intelligent than us, but nobody seems to know how to prevent it. These are like discussions going on, but Going back to law firms, I mean, again, uh, it's a matter of whether or not you want to adopt it. And a lot of law firms are starting to tap in gradually to use part of the technology. So we have two. One is LLM, the other one is machine learning. And both of them combined are helping firms as a business, generally speaking, with lead generation, with client intake, with chatbots, this sort of interaction with clients. To do with e-discovery, lawyers now give a 50,000 pages of document to AI, and instead of spending several hours of a lot of workers and that costs $8,000, it takes 1 hour, and e-discovery will say, okay, this document, that document is related to this case. In the USA, even judges are using AI before imposing the judgment. AI will tell them based on this case and everything what is recommended punishment, and they realize that at some point what AI suggested, if the offender was a black offender, then the punishment was harsher than a person, because AI was a bit biased in that sense.
Yep.
And even the police in the USA has got the same issue when they want to see if somebody should be charged or not. Again, the bias is there. So these are the issues we have with AI at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. That's what I was alluding to. Here in the United Kingdom, there have been a number of cases recently where completely what they call hallucinatory judgments, but false judgments and cases have been put before the court by lawyers. And so far, and there was one this week in the Immigration Tribunal, and the court there said that the barrister had not intended to mislead the court, and so they've reported him to the bar standards. Now, that may be a failure to use it properly. I accept that. But is it working? The short answer is no. Well, yeah, but I think that taps into something much deeper. I suspect all of us, certainly when I was younger, I'd never admit I was wrong, never say sorry, I knew everything. And then as you get older and more knowledgeable, it's the old thing about the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And you get that confidence to say, I don't know, but I know where to look, or I know the issues. And it's the classic thing that surgeons will say, the operation may be straightforward. That isn't the issue. The issue is when I open you up, I can spot if there's a problem, there's something not normal that needs dealing with. And, I can't speak for virtually the entire world. If you're depressed and you've got issues, what you want is a hug, not a computer. Now, people to reach out and to get out and get therapy and to actually escape from their tablet or phone or bedroom is a major issue. And I think that COVID greatly exacerbated what was already there in terms of people's greater reluctance to actually meet face to face and so on. And we then let's assume that artificial intelligence, whatever that is, let's assume it could correctly, whatever that means, give the result of every law case better than a judge without the judge's prejudices and bias. I don't mean that in a pejorative way. We all have them. Let us assume that the answer was always going to be correct. I don't think ever people would accept the authority of effectively a computer depriving them of custody of their children, sending them to prison, taking their home away, or whatever it is. And if you look at every society in the world throughout history, it's had, and it's different in different societies, different religions and different cultures, but broadly a system of elders or of people who are recognized not necessarily for any particular qualification as being the leaders of the community, the people who others can turn to. And I simply do not see a computer or computer generated or non-human ever replacing that. And that is for deep cultural and psychological reasons. And I think that's the inherent problem that it has. As I say, if it's the weather forecast, fine. If it's smart roads and driverless cars, I'm a big fan of them. That's interesting. They're legal, technology's there, the car companies want it. I would love them. There's no interest at all in this country in driverless, or virtually none. I helped draft the legislation on, should you be able to be in a car, having had jump street? The answer is yes, because you have no control. It's driverless. It's not you taking back control. All the head of Volvo said years ago, no one born after today will ever learn to drive. But it's just not happened. It's just not happened, and it's not happening anywhere. And that, for me, is a key indicator that all the evidence is that it would cut deaths and accidents and injuries by 95%. Huge savings in the National Health Service, let alone people's personal lives. People aren't interested.
I love Herman as Siddhartha. That's my favorite.
But other sides of that, I think WhatsApp is amazing. That you can, wherever I'm in the world, I can phone my family and friends free. I think that's amazing. I think WhatsApp groups are a disaster because there's all sorts of prejudice and so on that comes there. I think we're seeing that on social media. So there is balance. The hard line I would draw, and I think people all over the world will eventually draw, is that this should be a tool and not a master. And the way it's being presented, that it will conduct, your medical diagnosis, it will decide your legal case. I mean, how do you factor in whatever religion you are or are not, the role of an imam or a priest or whatever religion anyone follows? How does that fit into AI? Why have people got that faith and get that comfort from religion and the priests and so on? And I think we're losing sight. And I think this is a key point. And I think politicians and business people are not picking this up. The people are, they're out on the street, literally. And I think a lot of the sometimes unfocused anger that is undoubtedly being felt in the United States and Western Europe is against this dehumanizing of life. And I think that's it's a very good point. And again, don't get me wrong, things which are in a sense quite artificial intelligence, but like laser surgery is obviously a fantastic improvement as compared with having a knife cutting you open. And a lot of it is down to the degree of supervision. It's quite clear that politicians broadly haven't a clue about this. And you're quite right. It's all about controlling the controllers rather than looking at the substance of it. And that, certainly in the United Kingdom, the state computer system's an absolute disaster. That people don't understand it. They're not people running businesses. I mean, for what it's worth, I'm left wing, but I've run a business all my life, so I see both sides. I was the 8th person in the United Kingdom to have a website. And then I thought, this is a complete waste of time. No one. I had one of those big early phones that you had to, have somebody carry a bag for you. They were so heavy. So I'm not anti technology as such, but I think
it's to be managed.
Yeah, and the idea that what I see at the moment is that the West, in particular, and I use that term advice, and I'll come back to that. This now, because of the political and economic problems and the civil unrest, it's being shunted out as an answer to everyone's problems. And I don't blame controllers and salespeople saying, right, we will take advantage of this. You're quite right. Politicians are not engaging or understanding or addressing it at all. You said there's been no democratic debate about it. You're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look, I spend a lot of time in South Africa, uh, and it's very different there in terms of there's far less, there's no doubt at all. We've seen that, and I'll name that because Elon
Absolutely.
Musk interfering in British politics, he's on the far right. And he's obviously a major player in social media,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a concern. And I don't think I completely agree with you that it hasn't been addressed. I don't see politicians addressing it until you have what you, for example, happened here.
The only model, Denmark is now developing a model that is basically multilingual, basically is learning from different languages rather than being trained only on English.
Yeah.
And
And that's a very interesting concept, which I agree with. And what I was going to interrupt was that you're right, of course, that it's English medium, but that's true anyway. That English, I mean, I am English with an English accent, but that is the prevalence of English is culturally damaging. There's no doubt. It drives out the subtleties in language. I mean, language more than anything reflects culture. I know it's the famous thing that Eskimos have. The Inuits have, 19 words for snow or whatever. South Africa has 13 official languages, and it's a big issue there. And AI, in a sense, has been used there. It was someone who worked with me, and her job was to create voice models in the different languages and regional accents in South Africa for cars, for sat nav and for warnings and so on,
mhm,
rather than just, well, it's in English and that's that, take it or leave it. So there are possibilities of controlling and refining and adapting certain matters so that they can be culturally reflective. But that's not happening, and it hasn't happened at all with computers.
mhm.
English is the international language of computers, and there's been no real pushback. I'm aware of what's happening in Denmark, and I think that's interesting. The Scandinavian countries I exclude
Yes.
from the problems of the West, that they're
Mhm.
much more advanced civilized countries in my view, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Um,
Yes.
you
I'd
know,
like to chat about a couple of technology and tools that we use for lawyers that I actually like. You mentioned that you don't mind things that are in a controlled manner. You don't want to give the decision making, but things that are as a tool. I give you one example. We help a lot of law firms with legal chatbots. I run a law firm in the UK. We always had issues with clients angry. Why don't you answer this simple question? The receptionist couldn't know the answer. They had to ask somebody. That person wasn't available. It was a very, very basic question. An AI could have handled this very well. So I give you an example. There is this law firm that deals with all sort of different claims. You name it, like 20 different claims. And they handle those for people. They are very complicated. So we designed a chatbot for them, and they had issues before because people before they want to give the case to them, they had to ask questions, what documents I need to provide, what is no win, no fee, how do you deal with it? All that is dealt with a chatbot, which is very smart, much clever than a receptionist because it doesn't forget anything. It knows all the thing. Their website had 111 pages. This chatbot knows every single word everywhere. It knows frequently asked questions. It knows care letters. It knows how they manage how to get the client. So that basically replaced couple of people. They didn't have to sack someone, but the receptionist's job was to handle the face-to-face conversations, the human touch, while the chatbot dealt with that, and they are so happy. So this is one example that AI can be useful if it is implemented properly. Of course, we had to do it in a way that uh, privacy is managed, so no No document or client document will go to ChatGPT. It's all internal, so nothing goes outside of the firm.
Yeah.
So just one
What's the
example.
client retention rate now compared with 20, 40, 50 years ago? It's collapsed. So I think that's the most damaging thing a law firm can do, is to abolish people. We had a receptionist for years, and we used to do annual surveys, and I believe we got extremely good marks. She got 100% for 4 years on the trot. She didn't know a word of law, wasn't her job. She knew everyone who came into the office. When they took their address, she knew the road, the area.
Mm-mm-mm. Yes. I have to point out something very important, which is clients' expectations is changing and shifting because of the technology, because of the fact that they are using AI themselves. There is a shift. You cannot expect a client to send an email to a firm and expect him to wait 3 days for an answer. They expect answer within 24 hours. So if a firm doesn't have an efficient system that doesn't answer within 24 hours, that client gone somewhere else. That is one example.
Yeah, but
The other
get
one,
they'll get
the
bad
other,
outcomes, because there are certain issues which and medical issues as well, where you
yeah.
simply, if it's a complicated matter, I can give advice in 24 hours. It'll be poor advice. I've got
No,
an
no, I'm not saying
application.
advice,
I need to
response.
think about that.
No, no, no. They expect a response. You can say,
Fine,
I received your email.
they can go to crap and sun down the road.
Yes, they expect a response, initial response. If they don't get that within 24 hours, they go somewhere else.
I don't
The
want
other
clients like
issue
that. I
is
don't want clients like that.
efficiency. I hear from lawyers that I used to charge 10 hours for preparing a contract, for example, a typical contract for sale contract, whatever. These days, my clients, the same clients who used to pay me 10 hours, they do it with ChatGPT and send it to me. Can you have a look at it? So things are changing and shifting. And unfortunately, if law firms who want to keep in the game of gaining more clients, I'm not talking about dealing with existing clients, whereas even existing clients, if they don't see the efficiency which they expect from the 2025 age of technology, if they don't see that efficiency, they lose trust. They go somewhere else. They say that, okay, it's not fast enough, it's not efficient enough. We go elsewhere. Of course, the clients who are with you through word of mouth and they've tested you several times, they are more likely to stay with you. But then you have to say goodbye to new clients who've seen different way of serving, and they don't come necessarily to firms who don't have the right efficient systems in place. And that is a challenge. I'm not saying it's a good thing. This is a challenge. I talked to a number of lawyers and law firms. This is a challenge they have. Clients changing, their expectations are changing because of the fact that there is technology and they want firms to be more efficient. And that is a fact that
And of
makes a
course, if I then
difference.
do get back to them while I'm away because it's raining or whatever, they're pleased. So, and in terms of time, I've always been against charging by the hour. I wrote the standard books behind on fixed costs.
Mm,
I had a heavy input into um, the second part of the Lord Justice Jackson's reforms on fixed costs. So I completely um, accept that just sitting down for 10 hours and charging for that, as compared with charging for your knowledge, experience, and so
mm,
on, is wrong. I am with clients on that. But the irony is, you talk about correctly, you're right about expectations, but the delays in the courts are longer than ever. The land registry can take over 3 years to register.
mm,
And there's this real mismatch. Clients, I want an answer now. Well, that's fine. I can run around and do it. The state will keep you waiting 3 years or 5 years for the land
mhm.
registry or the courts. And I think it will go. I think it will go back to people valuing individuals. But none of this is meant to be an excuse for poor service, not doing your research, not doing your homework, and not attending to clients. Um, Can technology help on that? Yes, of course it can. I mean, when I'm in South Africa, I'm going to be recording YouTube videos to explain matters, because I think, sending clients an 18-page client care list is ridiculous. No one reads it. I've been pushing the senior
Well done.
judges,
That's a good idea.
rather than counsel drafting this and drafting that, any claim, I don't care what it is, it starts with the client or the lawyer with a 5-minute YouTube video or 1 minute or whatever it needs, saying, this is the basis of the claim, this is what it's about. That's way better for a court. And it is possible that AI could then pick that up and pick up the video and say, right, it's personal injury, it's employment, it's family, it's commercial. Starting point as to
Technology is there, yes.
yeah.
And I like your short video on your website, and you are good on camera, so you should do more of this.
Yeah, I need to get my hair cut.
No, definitely. And yeah, this is another thing, people are becoming more visual,
Yeah, I've got
they
sort of one of those moments for me was years ago when my American Express statement popped up as a little video. Kerry, your statement, it came rather than an email, it just came up with the amount I owed and when it had to be paid by. And I thought, wow.
That's very interesting. No, thank you very much, Kerry. That was a wonderful conversation.
I'm with you. Thank you.
Thank you so
It's a
much.
fascinating area, and
Yes,
the
definitely.
issue is not going to go away. So
No, I had uh, a speech last week in AI and clean energy, and all the energy lawyers were there. It was a very, very good event. And I was talking about the artificial intelligence role in clean energy and blah, blah. Everybody was, there was no one who was saying that we shouldn't use AI in energy. They are using it, the grids, smart grids, optimized distribution, everything is now being done in energy. That's why probably we saw some of the blackouts as well.
yeah.
So, but there was no real solution. When I came up with this idea that, okay, what AI you use in your control room? Have you registered? Is it a registered AI? Do you know what decision they make? Every decision it makes, is there any log of why AI made this call? There is none. Basically, they use the systems there. And I said, how do you allow an unregistered, an unlicensed operator in the control room? No. So how do you allow an unregistered AI into your operations? They were all shocked. Yeah, that's a good idea. I said, yeah, of course it's a good idea, but who is going to go and do it? I don't think anybody's.
Why isn't there? It comes back to exactly what you were saying. Why isn't there in cabinets around? Why is there not a Secretary of State for Artificial Intelligence? Cabinet member.
Absolutely. Yes. Mhm.
Leave you with that thought, sir.
Anyway, so in the legal sector, we should have the same. If an AI is used, we need to know on what basis, what are the reasons AI came to this solution. There is a black box. AI can tell you this is the answer, but it cannot explain to you why it came to this
Reasoning.
conclusion.
Like the old thing in the exams, isn't it? That if you got the answer right, but you didn't know why, that was worse than getting the answer wrong when all your reasoning had been good.
These are issues, yeah. Thank you so much, Kerry. We'll
Sure.
hopefully talk
Absolutely.
again.
Sure.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.